Terri Horman does an interview with ABC and People magazine. Take a look at this Kyron Horman case revisited early news collection.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It was a missing persons case that captivated the country. 7-year-old Kyron Horman goes to school and vanishes, seemingly without a trace. And though police never named her as a suspect, his stepmother has been the subject of sinister accusations. Tonight, she's breaking her silence, explaining what she thinks really happened to Kyron.
This gap-toothed, bespectacled little boy is Kyron Horman, smiling in front of his tree frog project on June 4th, 2010, the day the 7-year-old disappeared, seemingly without a trace from his Oregon elementary school. His stepmother, Terri Horman, took that last photograph of him.
When you see that picture now, what goes through your mind?
Just to take him home. Just go home.
Kyron's face was splashed across televisions and billboards, Terri appearing on television alongside her husband Kane and Kyron's biological mother Desiree Young.
We as the family know how difficult and stressful this is, but your memories and statements can help us find Kyron.
But only days after his disappearance, Kane Horman and Desiree Young publicly began questioning Terri, saying they thought she may have something to do with his disappearance. The dark shadow of suspicion has followed her ever since.
Did you have anything to do with his disappearance?
No, none. And I don't resent you asking that question, but it hurts my heart to even be asked. Every sense of the word, he's my son.
For the first time, Terri Horman says she's speaking out to set the record straight. It's an ABC News and People magazine exclusive.
It's been more than 5 years since Kyron disappeared. Why sit down now?
Because the focus has been on me, and I should not be the focus.
I think the reason why she sat down was because she wanted people to hear her speak and hopefully get people to believe that she had nothing to do with this.
Kyron lived with his father, Kane, and stepmother, Terri, since he was an infant, along with Terry's older son, James, and later the couple's infant daughter, Kiara. Kyron's mother, Desiree Young, lived 5 hours south in Medford, Oregon.
Did Kyron think of you as another mom?
I'm mom. He referred to me as mom, and he would call Desiree Medford mom.
Terri says she's been Kyron's primary caregiver since he was 3 months old. The former teacher says she loved being a mom, especially being able to help with homework.
He was very proud of that.
Yes,
science.
we spent some time on that.
She says she watched Kyron walking towards his classroom around 8:45 before classes began that day.
I walked out the main doors by the buses.
That was the last time you saw him?
Yeah.
Kyron was marked absent from school, but wasn't reported missing until later when he didn't get off the bus home. Terri called the school in a panic.
I'm talking to the secretary. She says he's not here, and your heart just sinks. I mean, you're just like, how could he not be there?
Kyron simply vanished. The school had no surveillance cameras.
Kyron!
Oregon police quickly launched what became the biggest and most expensive search in the state's history.
We're gonna bring you home, buddy.
As the family pleaded for help, police seemed interested in Terri Horman, especially after she failed 2 separate polygraph tests.
Why do you think you failed lie detector tests?
Well, partially because of my hearing. I'm deaf in my left ear.
Why would being deaf in one ear affect a lie detector test?
Because I'm reading your lips as we're speaking. Also, I hadn't slept. I hadn't slept in days.
Did you at any time lie to police?
No.
A lot of people think if you flunk not 1 but 2 lie detector tests that there's got to be something going on.
Well, I think that they already had settled on me to be their patsy.
Terri says she left Skyline Elementary that day at 8:45, her 19-month-old daughter Kiara with her. She says she drove to a nearby Fred Meyer's pharmacy to look for a specific kind of medicine for Kiara. Terri says they didn't have the medicine, so she drove to another Fred Meyer's to see if they had it in stock. Then comes a period of unaccounted time many who have followed the case closely question, when Terri says she pulled over to tend to her fussy toddler.
I parked for a little while, for about a half hour, and I rocked her to sleep and got her to crash for a little bit.
So why pull off the side of the road?
She works best at the time, works best to be rocked to sleep.
Terri says that once Kiara was asleep, she began to drive around to keep her napping. Much of the media speculation about her whereabouts that day centers here on Sauvie Island, where police repeatedly searched. There were widespread but unconfirmed reports that her cell phone was pinging from that location during the unaccounted time.
Highway 30 runs parallel to Sauvie Island. I was on Highway 30.
You didn't go?
I was never on Sauvie Island, never.
1 month after Kyron went missing, Desiree Young came forward to the press claiming Terri had something to do with it.
We implore Terri Horman to fully cooperate with the investigators to bring Kyron home.
Then Terri's husband Kane files for divorce and a restraining order. In the filings, Kane writes that police told him they believe Terri was involved with Kyron's disappearance, even though publicly she was never officially called a suspect. But there's more, a bombshell accusation. Kane claims police told him Terri tried to hire their landscaper to kill him. In court documents obtained by ABC News, Terri's part-time landscaper, Rodolfo Sanchez, told police that Terri, quote, told me she wanted me to help her get rid of her husband. Terri denies that this ever happened and says Sanchez made up the story after she rejected his sexual advances. She was also never charged.
So you're saying this whole murder-for-hire plot was made up?
Yes.
And yet that was the basis on which
my daughter was taken.
Kane Horman was granted a restraining order and sole custody of their daughter, Kiara.
I've lost 2 children in 3 weeks. 2 children.
Meanwhile, Terri's entire life became the subject of public scrutiny. Surprising pictures of her days as a female bodybuilder surfaced, as well as a mugshot of her 2005 DUI. Meanwhile, entire websites devoted to her supposed guilt cropped up on the internet. And in the midst of it all, it's discovered that Terri has been sending salacious texts to a male friend.
You're sexting with
Sure.
some random guy. It doesn't
Sure.
look good.
No, it doesn't. But like I said, I'm not going to make an excuse for it. I'm going to own up to it.
Terri tells us she believed the police zeroed in on her too quickly in the investigation.
Why do you think the police have never charged you, called you a suspect, or even a person of interest?
Because they have exonerating evidence they have not shown the public, and they should come forth with what they know.
Terri says she told her pediatrician and later the police that she suspected something was off about Kyron in the weeks leading up to his disappearance.
I'd walk into his room, and there were things he was doing to himself that would tell me that there was something wrong, that somebody may be touching him improperly.
So you're implying that maybe he had been sexually abused?
Possibly. And that was a concern of mine.
What's your theory on what happened?
That he was taken from school.
So you think a stranger came in and abducted him?
Yes. And there's pedophiles in the area. Definitely.
Investigators repeatedly denied our request to comment on Terri's story, citing the ongoing investigation. But Desiree Young, Kyron's mother, says she is sure of her guilt.
I'm certain. I'm confident I would stake my life on it.
Desiree says the sexual abuse comments are a diversion tactic.
He was never abused. Very loved child. I think that Terri, and she's been doing this since he went missing, throws up other flags to try and detract from herself.
Desiree also claims that police showed her details that point out inconsistencies in Terri's story, the details of which investigators would not confirm with ABC News.
It was all her lies, all of her inconsistent stories, the different versions of her timeline. I will search for him until the end of time. I'm gonna look until he comes home.
Though he's spoken out against her in the past, Terri's ex-husband Kane declined our request for comment. He still has custody of their daughter Kiara, who's now 7 years old. Terri says she hasn't been permitted to see her in 5 years.
What would you say to her?
I've missed every moment with you. I can never get it back. I'm so sorry.
Terri tells us the court recently allowed her to start the process of reuniting with her daughter, but it's slow going.
What is that like, living as, quote unquote, a prime suspect when the authorities have never arrested you, they've never charged you with anything formally?
Not being able to get a job.
You're unemployable.
Absolutely. Well, I actually sold my car in order to purchase food, in order to pay her support.
Either you're a very convincing liar, or a grave injustice has been befallen you.
People can say what they want about me. I really don't care. My purpose is to find my son, to get my daughter back, to get my life back in order, in that order.
Clearly, the one thing everyone wants in this investigation is to find Kyron.